In this video, we're going to talk about the very basic functionality of PlatinumPay. A lot of power, a lot of functionality, but most of the time users are going to spend working with employee information, and that's what I want to show you today. PlatinumPay is very logically organized. Over on the left side, we have various different, what I call electronic, really filing cabinets. We have a today drawer and a payroll drawer. I want to take you into the employee drawer because that's where you'll spend most of your time as a user. I'm going to go ahead and click on employee. That will open up. As you can see, I still have all my drawers. I'm just expanding this employee drawer. Now you'll notice I've got some sub-drawers. There's a lot of information here. This is the primary. If I went into an HR, I'd have all kinds of other stuff, special, more stuff still. But most of the time we're going to spend in the primary section. I'm going to show you some of the key information. A lot of the buttons on here, attendance, reminders, these are things that you can also get to from within the employee record. So that's also very common. But we're going to start by clicking on the employee setup icon, and that's going to pull you up to typically the record that you were accessing most recently. As I continue my analogy of an electronic filing folder, so imagine now you've opened up this record and we're looking at just one of the electronic manila folders that's in there. This is Cynthia's particular record. There's a lot of different ways that you can go around and access the employees themselves, and I want to talk about that first. If we're inside of an employee record, the most logical way is to click on the search button up here at the top. I like to click on the search button, and then down at the employee number, anytime we're presented with employee number, we can double click and we'll have a pick list of all of our active employees presented to us. This is convenient because we can double click on different headings to sort, either ascendingly or descendingly. Once we have chosen a particular employee, we'll just double click on them. Now incidentally, you'll notice the default is looking just at actives. If along the way I want to look at some of my terminated records, that's a piece of cake also. I'll just click that particular button. Now all of the records in my database are showing. Once I find somebody that I like, I double click on the name, that populates the employee number, and then either click search again, okay, or press enter on your keyboard, and that will pull that record from the database. Okay, that's a very common way of doing it. I can also click on the search, again that clears, and rather than double click here on the employee number, I can search again. That is going to pull up all of my active, and you can see now I'm on record 1 of 23. This is very convenient, okay, because maybe there's some times where you want to be flipping through your employee information one at a time very rapidly, looking for people, I don't know, that might have a missing social or a missing zip code. These VCR buttons that appear make that very easy. So I can click, 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 and just go through very rapidly my employee information. That's a very common way for users to get around. When we've got all of the employee records available to us, again, all 23, or I can toggle here, and I can do all employees if I'd like. I've got 41 total records from the beginning of time. I can also, it's very common to go over to this employee list tab. This is another real popular way for people to see all of their information and then take advantage of the double clicking on the column heading to sort ascendingly and descendingly. Okay, so those are the ways to get around. One final method I'll tell you about is if, let's say we've got our 41 records, we also have the ability to use this particular click up. This is really duplicates what was going on here with the what I call the VCR buttons. That's my favorite, but a lot of clients also like this method for going around and just cycling through the employees. So whatever your cup of tea, there's a lot of different ways to access your information. Once we're inside of a record, I want to take you through just the very basics of the information and what you as a user now have control over. I want to draw your attention to all these different sub-tabs. Across the bottom we have this first particular tab, and then we have more here in the back row. The general tab is where we start putting in the basic information. We can maintain socials and divisions, departments, name, address, zip. Incidentally, if you type in the zip code prior to city and state, it'll validate for you. So if you double click on a zip code, it'll ask you, boom, it'll automatically populate the city and state. When your company was architected by our client management team, we know how you pay. There are some clients that have multiple frequencies. Maybe they run a biweekly and a weekly payroll cycle. So in that case, you'd want to be real careful to make sure this was set properly. Maintaining hourly employees, we simply put that in rate 1 or salary in the salary box. Very basic. As we slide over to basic tax info, that's where we maintain the information for W-4 purposes, Area 3 for instance. If an employee wants some extra withholding, we can maintain it here. If they would prefer that each check arrive on a fixed amount of federal withholding, we can program it there also. In Florida, no one will ever deal with local withholdings. Similarly, when we're only in Florida, we don't need to mess with the state tax info. Auto pays, auto deductions, and auto memos are cousins. It's very common for employers to have deductions coming out of individual paychecks. And I'm going to see if I can find an example here. I'm going to go ahead and expand to look at all of my records. Old Florida is responsible for consulting with you and making sure that the deductions are taxed appropriately, and our staff will do that. You cannot control the taxation of deductions. We'll set that up for you. But once they're available, you can have an unlimited amount of them, and they all take your custom description. Once they're available, clients can put that information in, okay? And we'll touch about, in other training videos, a little deeper on how you can maintain deduction information. But this is where that is maintained. Auto deductions tells the system, every time I'm doing a check, I want you to automatically bring these deductions into that check. I mentioned these are cousins. Auto pays would be anything that needs to arrive automatically in a check other than salary or hourly pay. Like, in this particular instance, this is a bonus that's going to come on the first payroll of every month into this person's check. But practically speaking, clients will use this if they have auto reimbursements or expense reimbursements, maybe a cell phone allowance, anything that they like to schedule automatically that they don't want to have to keep track of. Memos, similarly. Things that we can track in the system. A memo is what we classify as something that does not affect the net of the check. For instance, 401k match. That'd be a real popular one. Simple IRA match. I also consult with a lot of clients and suggest that they put in the employer paid share of health insurance. That's very common for people to want to post that on the stub. So those are things that don't affect the net take-home pay, but we can track and manage and post in the payroll system. As we slide over to HR Basic, when you first save a record for the very first time, it's going to give you today's date as start date naturally. You can override that and put in the higher date. To terminate a record, you simply put a date in terminate. Okay, that's a piece of cake. The rest of this is cosmetic. For the most part, other than PTO, most of this data does not drive anything. And you can fill this kind of information in at your leisure. Most clients do want to maintain birth date. I'm going to slide up to the next row, all the way over to the left, because the HR is really where a lot of the power comes in. Here you see all kinds of extra information, and you can put all kinds and tons of different data. We even have a web-based application that clients can sit new hires in front of that is custom branded, has their client, their business's logo on it, and a new hire can sit in front of a PC, fill out all their payroll HR information, and whoosh, it goes automatically into PlatinumPay and saves you all that keying information time. We'll talk more about that in later videos. Direct deposit is the next tab. As you can see, we can split up to that net check into up to 4 different accounts. Piece of cake to maintain. We'll cycle through here. Here's an example of somebody that has a couple. The important thing here is to remember that when you choose to add direct deposit, you decide, checking your savings, the rounding and account number, and then you're either splitting something as a flat split, a certain amount of money, or a percent split, a percent like 100%. And then users also can dictate, we do not mandate that you pre-note, but you have that option. The important thing we try to teach customers here is, it's always, the system is going to split first, then it's going to go to the second. The last account, what we call the remainder account, always needs to have percent 100 if you want the remainder to go into that bank account. Accrual plans is where if you took advantage of our additional paid time off tracking module, this is where that information would be taken care of. Web setup is not active today. Labor for some of our more sophisticated larger clients, if you have a fixed amount of, a fixed split for instance, maybe the cost of my salary is split over 4 different departments over various percentages and it's the same every time. We can program that in the system, and then automatically for for labor allocation, we can track that in the system. A lot of our more sophisticated clients take care of that or take advantage of that. And finally, we get the Employee List tab. So those are the basic information to employee. As we finish up this video, it's very simple. All right, we just need to make sure that we're in a particular record. Again, if you make a change to something, the system will prompt you, hey, would you like to make that change? It won't let you get out of there, without having an opportunity to save it. But when you're in any active record, go ahead and click up here on the left side and click New, and that's how you begin. The system will automatically try to put in an employee number, one integer higher than the highest one. You can obviously override that, and then you pretty much just follow suit and work your way down the page. Very basic stuff. So hopefully that helps. Obviously, our client management team and I are more than happy to take your phone calls or emails to help you through this. But once you've got the basics of navigating your employee information, you've mastered the main fundamentals of PlatinumPay.